conversations about different topics, mainly related to art and architecture. First of all, I just wanted to thank especially Kai also for inviting me to be the host tonight. I'm very happy to be here. And something which is actually interesting is that this kind of event has a long tradition here in Frankfurt and also at Städelschule. Because the first idea of coming together to discuss, all different topics already started in 1849. So, I think it's interesting that we can now, take this tradition and to continue. Something also which is maybe interesting and important to mention is that the name Katakombe maybe seems a little bit odd, because we're not in a subterranean chamber somewhere which is actually for functions as a burial space. But we're here to talk about topics that actually I think every one of us can relate to. So it's nothing secret or hidden. But there is another tradition which is related to the title or the name Katakombe. It's the Gesellschaft in den Katakomben, which was created in the 60s by Günter Bock, who had this idea of building a group of enthusiastic illustrated people who get together to have, and now I quote, the literary or other works discussed and assessed by knowledgeable acquaintances in a convivial atmosphere. I think this is something that you all who organized this event really created tonight. There's an interesting atmosphere here at Mensa, which I think is maybe a space that we all know from our lunches that we have here. But I think Mensa itself, as a building or as the space, is also interesting because it's a social space where we come together to talk about private ideas, moments, but also professional. So it's a very interdisciplinary space, and which can also, be a good example of how architecture and art can be connected to each other. And I think this is one of the main ideas also Günter Bock had during his, work as an architect. As I already mentioned, we have 4 tables here. We have 4 hosts and 11 guests who will talk about their works and ideas. The idea is that, as I already mentioned, the atmosphere should be very relaxed, so feel free to just grab a drink whenever you want to, or maybe also to get some fresh air. After each conversation, which will take approximately 20 minutes, maybe also 30 minutes, we will have a short break of maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So, let's see what the evening brings. If you have any questions, feel free, if it's an urgent one or something you want to mention, please feel free to just interact or intervene. Otherwise, we all invite you to stay after the 4 talks, to maybe have a drink all together and then, continue conversations, maybe in a smaller scale. All right, so I wish us all a very interesting and good evening, and I'll pass on to our first host. Hi.
And thank you all our team members who work together for this. It's not only for us, also for our friends or our school, give us a chance. I'm really proud for this. And first of all, I want to introduce my guests, Christina, Chalupsky, artist, Sabine, Plagemann, architect, Schneider, architect. And today I will talk about my interests, which last from my essay study through right now, this moment. And this is a fluid fiction where I want to introduce the idea. We can start to play the show. Fluid fiction, it touches different perspective, context, and perspective. My enthusiasm about fluid is not only about its appearance, but also through the history of fluid changing. We need to ask the question, what is the driving force behind it? And if any chance we can change the way how we deal with fluid. Is it possible we can ask the question, what is fluid and how do we deal with it? Is it only the way casting, how we form the concrete, or we can simply ask a question, what do you want in concrete? It's necessary to find out a new way, like what Benjamin will talk about. The new form of art is driven by new technology standards. And the fluid, which I'm enthusiastic about, drives me to think about how do we liberate and how do we to think a new way to communicate with this material, not as a traditional way of casting. And here, I would like to introduce where I start with my fiction, which is I try to combine with the idea of the new city concept mixed with my fluid idea, how they evolve with each other, and how they have new contact and dialogue with each other. It's not only as urban context skill, but also can be rather as a small installation who embody with light. It's interesting for me that it not only touches with the different contexts within the city cultures, but also bring us to a new understanding of what we need to deal with the new idea of the material, as what Benjamin talked about. The driving force is a new standard. And that's a point of view that I start to depart. Does the fluid want to be a concrete, as slab, as a column, or as amplified as a city? We need to build a new dialogue in between us and the new materials. Perhaps we found a new dialogue which arises from the idea of fluid scale, which I so call it. It can be stand the city as big as it is, it can be small as a light installation. And also, it brings us to a new idea of prosthesis. Maybe we can start to imagine a new idea, a new narrative, which inject into the city. Maybe can we imagine a new Tiananmen Square, which can bring the new public to the art of the Beijing, or bring a new bridge in between London, or we can find a new factory on top of New York City, or even to make it fairy tale land for the immigrants, or even simply a hybrid urban prosthesis, or even a fluid scale inside the nature. Here I ended my fiction with fluid. In a way, fluid is a way of a wish, a fiction. Is the form of fluid solid or is not? Second. And I leave for my guest.
So, thank you for the presentation. I think that was really interesting. Interesting to see new ideas. I would call them new ideas of architecture. You were also calling them new ideas of material. And I'm not sure if it is about the material. I think it's more about a vision of how could architecture be in the future. So how could cities be in the future? And we could see that you have a vision, but I would like to disconnect it from the material itself, because I think the material is not the central point. Of course, later, whatever, if an utopia needs to be realized, I don't know if utopias could be realized. Another interesting question. Then you think about material, but first of all, there's the idea of an implementation of something which is above us or which is in between us. Yeah, that's my first statement.
I have a question. Is it the generating process of this fluid technology, is it then at some point, is it fixed? Is it that you say freeze and it's like that? So is it in terms of similar thing like building with concrete, the buildings you showed which are built out of slabs, or is it in motion? So emotionally in motion.
I would say I have some experimental approach for this fluid material, not only as a plaster, but concrete. And it works in a certain way and in certain scales, and it has some possibility or potential to bring forward as a new, I call it, fluid state, which can merge with something else, which call it fiction.
Mm-hmm. So it's without any costs. It's a fluid is done by these new technologies, possible technologies, and it's still able to change its shape.
The so-called technology, which I hide it and put on the table. It's done by different materials, by gravity, by different process, and it treats itself as we deal with before, and it gives new possibility for this itself. Yeah.
On some of the images, it looks like the gravity is upside down, so that it's attracted by the moon or some other force. That should say something about possibilities of these materials, new materials, and new options you have with this.
Like I mentioned before, it's formed by one element, gravity, which is goes down forward.
Yeah.
And against the gravity in a form way, I revise it to bring up as a spatial quality for emerging with different context.
Okay, so when I think about like fluid, also like hearing your presentation, I would like also like a bit similar to Sabine, always think about like more like concepts instead of like material, like talking about architectural concepts. And I really like that in your small introduction you gave, that you are like questioning the traditional way of casting in like the way of like art, but then one could also like think about it with like architecture and maybe in the way we build our like buildings in the future. So if there could be maybe like a more like fluid way of the whole like planning process or construction process, and then kind of like, okay, thinking about these things, one would think about like visionary architects like Cedric Price, for example, who would always like work with who had these concepts about like rooms that would change according to the needs of the people who are using the room. So then it's like my question, is this like also something that's like important for your fluid fiction project, or is this something that's you're thinking about, or is it maybe going to like another direction?
I think we can keep the form already to think about the new contemporary idea of like I bring up one idea of urban processes. So this is one approach from my material, but it can be driven by other form, other material, or other concept. And I think it has intriguing part of itself when we talk about not only as a contemporary society, urbanization, but also the combination or synthesis of the fluid form and the city concept. Yeah.
So, isn't it in our times of globalization that everything comes closer and that everything is connected to each other, and that's why we have to, or we want to be flexible, and this flexibility might be connected to your fluid idea? I'm just thinking of ideas of Buckminster Fuller, like who was living ages ago, and as we can see that example, I mean, he had his own visions, and some of them were realized, some of them not, so it was again some utopias, but what we can see in our days that there is, for example, these mobile homes which are flexible and which are kind of connected to the ideas of Buckminster Fuller, so this, I would say, is also a similarity to your idea of having fluid architecture.
When I first saw your pictures and your impressions or your thinking of in terms of generating these shapes, sometimes it reminds me on the disc covers of Yes, do you know? It's a group, pop group in the 80s, 90s. Are there any relations to it, or are you also on the historic church?
I would say those are mushrooms.
Yeah, okay. That was something which came up to my mind when I saw it.
What is it about? I'm curious.
It was more maybe it had something to do with drugs, that they had these visions of architecture. But I haven't drawn any plans or sections, so it isn't that you really think of how you can use these spaces and these architectures. Is there more than which we see here on the presentation?
I have imitated this physics into digital and try to produce some, like you say, architectural drawings, rendering, or diagram to illustrate it. I think this is two worlds we can communicate to each other, but I will feel more concrete to merge the real material into the image we have to illustrate the idea of fiction. Why is real, why is not real? If in a way we imitate into digital of this way of forming into a fake image, I think the combination will be different from you see the real and the real combination together. That's why I simply just cut the digital imitation out of my food fiction.
Isn't it even more of a provocation? I mean, aren't you trying to tell us something at the same time? Till was asking you for sections or for architectural thinking. I don't see that neither, but I don't see the need for.
Right, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Was it like something that the process is maybe like also like really important, like how you build these forms? Because it's like also, as I remember, it's quite complicated. So then maybe it's not about the end result, it's also about like this like path you took just to get there.
Yeah, I would say it's a long process, and I avoid to speak about it.
Okay.
Right answer.
My friends all know it. Open secret.
I like the combination with light. For me, light is also. I mean, it's not a material, but it's a possibility to create space. And when I heard the title first about fluid fiction, I even more had to think about artists like than Plagemann or Jim Sterrell. Jim Sterrell is creating a space like only out of light, not using any material which is touchable. So I never had the idea of concrete. So that's why I was always wondering when I heard the word concrete or cast or whatever. So I'm more thinking about space. For me, light or sound or something like this would be even more fluid, I must say. And that's why, like the end of your presentation, where you combined it with light, I mean, this is the idea of movable, and this is the idea of yeah.
And being not fixed.
Being not fixed.
Yeah.
As soon as you cast it, then
it's already
it loses more or less the original idea.
Yeah.
Which is a good representation of today's society also, and like the changes we are facing, I guess. Is it like when we talk about like digital revolution and everyone seems to be a little bit like disconnected and confused. So yeah, I think it's like that's what I really like that you bring up the topic of fluid, because it really seems to match with a lot of questions we're asking today, problems we're also facing. Yeah, seems to be like random.
And also still asking the question, the form of fluid is rather a solid or not? Can we just let it motion like we talked about, or we have to bring one moment of it on the table as a fixed form? And this is, for me, I still want to explore it. For example, like combination with light. You see light is not a fixed object, it's has its own space. And this material also has its own space, and it has potential to grow itself. And I think it's interesting to bring this motion material together and to see how they will have a new context or dialogue to each other. And I want to bring it further to try more possibilities of different elements to come back together. And this is for sure, for me, it's utopian, and I see it not only as just form on top of the city, but it's, like I said, fiction of which how we can bring our contemporary topic together, like some images we talk about. For reality, we cannot realize it, but in terms of this form, probably I trigger it and put it together.
Yeah, so isn't it a question about how we want to live in the future? So, I mean, I don't know if you just can give us an answer, but I have the feeling you're trying to merge the idea of living in a city with also living high up in the sky. So merging different ideas and trying to realize the architecture, which is super difficult. And we don't know about the results, but it is a dream, it is an utopia, and we all know architects who are talking about it. I'm just big in my head, so they're also trying to merge in different situations, like having your own garden in a big city. Yeah, I see. Yeah, topics into that direction.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting because you're talking about like, because when you're talking about fluid and you also mentioned like gas, and then I really like this like process when something is that this gas becomes fluid and then it becomes stiff, and this like point where it actually happens. So then I think that's also like something like Sabine like said, when you like combine everything, what happens like on the intersection? I think that's like when you think about the gardens and the cities, what you just said, and what happens in this like on this one moment when it like transfers from the one to the other. So yeah, I like this thought. Yeah.
In terms of scale, I realized that the installation, the light installation there, I see that there's a process and then something is changing. I wonder why all the other pictures you've shown there are only stills. Do you have any other pictures of process, or that it's somehow self-generating, or? have you shown that process, or is it? Are you interested in this sort of how it will change by time and how you will build it?
I think I'm interested in the process and the results. And for the process, I haven't have a clear mind how to documentary it or how to narrate it, and which I think there is possibility to combine with organization, the process, how the building is built by floors, by layers, and this is the same way how I construct this material as well. And I think it's very interesting to keep forward to see how it